After months of study, I proudly present this Arcana's Index Entry, Definitive World, and Mana Compendium of Baldur's Gate 3. The world. The land is the first to greet us. Before words, before fate, before even memory, there is terrain. It receives our fall, records our trespass, and shapes our destiny. We begin where the sky ends, crashing into a shore twisted by unnatural forces. The nautiloid wreckage, splayed across a jagged mind flayer beach, glows faintly with illithid remnants. The sand here is wet with blood and spell oil, scattered with broken pods and alien metal. Nearby, cliffs loom over the beach, where wrecked crabs skitter nervously away from the psychic rod. Climbing upward, the terrain shifts to the ravaged cliffs, their stone faces cleaved by arcane impact. Trees here lean like witnesses, and the air is heavy with burned pine and ozone. Atop the ridge, the crash site fans out into a grotesque tableau, a ruined chapel, gutted corpses, illithid carcasses twitching in death. This is no sacred place. It's a battlefield frozen mid-scream. The cliffs give way to overgrown ruins, swallowed by vines and time. Moss-stained marble columns rise from the earth like forgotten gods, the last breaths of a sunken civilization. Ruins beneath ruins, where stone remembers more than the living do. From here, the land opens into the wilderness proper, untamed and uneasy. Wild boar trails snake through grass choked with burrs. Fungi cluster beneath ancient oaks. We follow the flow of water toward the roadside cliffs, where a merchant's caravan once stood, now decimated, carts overturned, supplies looted. The path leads to the heart of natural resistance, the Emerald Grove. Shaped like a bowl carved by divine hands, it rests between bluffs and creeks, guarded by hanging vines and weather-worn gates. Inside, flora spills over rock in sacred symmetry. Pools reflect a trembling sun. But serenity here is staged. On its edge, tension hums in every stone. The grove is both sanctuary and powder keg. Not far from there, civilization decays into memory. The blighted village slouches beneath gray sky, roofs sagging, chimneys coughing out smoke. Rot runs through its floorboards. Goblins now dwell in half-collapsed taverns, and the village well echoes with something far older than thirst. Beneath, hidden laboratories and cellars reveal rusted tools and unnatural scripts. What was once academic is now abominable. The trail breaks into rocky sprawl, the risen road, an old trade artery broken by war and neglect. Stone bridges arch precariously over ravines and torchlit caves. Waukeen's Rest sits along the path, a once opulent inn reduced to scorched ruins, its rooms filled with ash, melted chandeliers, and half-buried corpses. The smell of smoke lingers long after the fire dies. The goblin camp sprawls through the husk of an ancient temple, Saloon's Temple, now converted into a grotesque war warren. The structure is desecrated, lunar iconography defaced with crude paint, marble statues smeared in filth. Yet the bones of the architecture resist the corruption. High arches still reach for heaven even as chaos reigns below. Close by, the putrid bog, moss-choked and fly-thick. The air buzzes with fever and decay. Here, water forgets its course and stagnates. Muckmen, slimes, and corpse-fattened flora thrive in this place unlit by reason. A witch's hut leans like a drunk house at the heart of it all, shrouded by illusion and overgrowth. The bog is a riddle, wrapped in humidity, spoken in curses. Further still is the Underdark entrance, a sinkhole or secret stair depending on your path. We emerge into Ebon Lake Grotto, the heart of this living underworld. Bioluminescent fungus drips from cavern ceilings like neon stalactites. The Myconid colony pulses with soft pastel glows, the sovereign's voice echoing in spores. Nearby lies the storehouse, a vast hollow lined with abandoned crates and barrels, hoarded goods from surface raids and subterranean enterprises alike. In other direction, we step into the Dread Hollow, where the gargantuan sussur tree stands sentinel within a chasm. Roots wriggle like veins through the stone, and hook horrors skulk in its shadows. Adjacent lies the decrepit village, its ramshackle huts and sandy beach overrun by duergar. Rusted boats rest by the shore, awaiting voyages to deeper realms. Then there is the selenite outpost that sprawls as a moon-worshipped fortress, its marble walls hollow yet warded by lingering celestial magic. Moonstone radiance still crackles in silent corridors. Southward looms the arcane tower, its weathered stonework littered with arcane turrets and rune-carved shields. Here, magic pulses through every fractal crack. And finally, far and hidden rests Grimforge, an abandoned settlement writhing around the legendary adamantine forge. Lava veins breathe beneath, while duergar echo through molten halls. We cross the bridge from one world to another, from sunlight into rot, from memory into mourning. At the last light inn, the curse halts for breath. It stands like a lighthouse in fog, wooden beams fortified with hope, lanterns burning with radiant warding. The land around it recoils from the protection. Inside, the last defenders sip from tin mugs and cling to oaths. The smell of baked bread does little to hide the fear. Beyond that radius, the air changes. Light becomes hostile, and time bends with it. We enter the ruined battlefield, where the land is saturated with death. Banners hang from broken siege towers. Armor rusts onto skeletons mid-charge. Ghosts reenact their final moments in silence. The terrain is no longer a backdrop, it's a battlefield preserved in agony. The House of Healing emerges behind a grove of crooked trees. Once a sanctuary, now a sanatorium. Corridors here are stained with devotion and blood, shattered beds, surgical relics, and whispered prayers that still echo along the rafters. It is a place where faith and cruelty fed one another until neither could be told apart. The landscape buckles into Wreathwind Town. Every building still stands, every market stall still clutters the square, statues line the streets. Through winding paths, crumbling docks give way to the Wraithwind Masons Guild and Wraithwind Toll House. Granite institutions of a town that once built, weighed, and measured the world. Now their thresholds are patrolled by silent justiciars and shadow beasts who speak only in death. Moving of town lies the grand mausoleum, cut into the cliffs like a wound. Its threshold is carved with half-erased prayers. Inside, statues of heroes and martyrs watch as we descend through secrets not meant to endure. And then we find it, the entry into the gauntlet of Shar. Corridors wind like riddles, altars demand obedience, pools of still water show no reflection. Shadow mechanisms click in silence, enforcing tests of faith. Here, the goddess of loss makes pilgrims of all who enter. Far beneath, the silent library preserves knowledge behind pain. And deeper still, in secret vaults, the trials end. When we emerge, it is into confrontation. Moonrise towers rise on the far edge of the lake, black stone framed in thunder. The architecture is ceremonial, monolithic, each window an eye, each chamber a cage. The towers gaze over a realm where hope is mocked. Below, the prisons stretch like roots into the deep dark. We leave the Shadowfell and re-emerge on the Sword Coast. Baldurs Gate's walls rise in pale defiance. From here, the journey fans into districts, each a mosaic of power and ruin. First, we step into Rivington, where refugees huddle in makeshift camps outside the city's reach. The air is taut with hope and anger, clanging swords, children's cries, tents buffeted by breeze. Beyond, the double-arched worms crossing bridges the river. Built in tiers of stone and iron, it spans both commerce and conflict. Coaches roll across as knights patrol the parapets. Every plank feels weighty with promise. We pour into the lower city, a pulsating heart of commerce and intrigue. Elf Song Tavern hums with haunting melody, a place where stories are both traded and spun. Nearby, the Steel Watch Foundry clangs all day, forging the blades that defend the gate or strip it bare. At sorcerous sundries, arcane tomes line dusty shelves, whispered magic lingers in every corner. Labyrinthine alleyways spiral beneath balconies, each step echoing with promise or threat. Beneath these urban locations lies the sewers, wet stone arteries pulsing with dark currents. Rats skitter among stagnant pools. Rebel graffiti hides behind slimy walls, and deeper still the undercity ruins, a forgotten layer of the city's past. Renegade cults and secret networks thrive by torchlight. Every dripping archway could be a trap or a gateway to salvation. The circus of the last days stands twisted and gaudy, spectacle turned circus of war. In the open-hand temple, clues to ritual murders and hidden cults spin like spider webs. Each site bleeds into the next. In candle-lit rooms, barter for secrets or forge new bonds in the shade of forbidden spellcraft departs toward unknown futures. The Fool. The call to begin. A name barely formed, a face unshaped, a memory adrift in the hold of a nautiloid. Whether you awaken as a custom Tav, a vessel of your own making, or choose to embody one of the origin characters, this moment remains the same. Suspended between worlds, abducted by an ancient mind flayer, with a parasite threading through your brain like an unwelcome prophecy, this is the fool's leap to its potential. The custom tab is the blank parchment, a soul uninked. You can be anything, love anyone, wield any blade or spell or sin. Your identity is written in your choices, your alliances, your regrets. The tadpole does not yet define you, neither do the gods, only possibility. But the origins, they come each with their own story yet to evolve. Astarion, the silvered blade in the dark, wakes to bloodlust and sunlight he was never meant to feel. He has lived 2 centuries as a slave to Cazador, a whispering aristocratic monster. Now, free yet hunted, his journey is less about becoming and more about remembering what it means to want. Shadowheart, cloaked in secrecy and divine purpose, begins her story already veiled. A faithful of Shar, goddess of forgetfulness and loss, her mind is fractured, intentionally. She knows only the mission, deliver the artifact, but beneath that mission hums a melody of doubt. Her full step, instead of naive, is obedient, and that could be far more dangerous. Gale, once the darling of Mistra, carries a hunger in his chest, a Netherese orb ticking like a divine time bomb. His beginning is more calamitous, if not humble. He joins the journey not as a sage and more as a beggar for redemption, a man of genius seeking grace. Lae'zel enters the scene like a war cry. There is no uncertainty in her path, only fury, faith, and contempt. She is Githyanki, forged for conquest, raised to despise weakness. And yet, she too is a fool, for her certainty will be tested, broken, reforged. The path ahead holds not glory, but revelation. Will, the heroic mask made flesh, begins in shadow. The blade of frontiers, beloved by bards and commoners, hides the infernal truth. He is bound to a cambion, Mizora, and every act of heroism is tethered to her chains. His step forward is brave, but also desperate. Karlach, newly arrived from the hells, emerges with her heart as a furnace, and her soul a song of second chances. She has escaped war, slavery, torment, and yet she smiles. Her fool's journey is the most literal. She is new to joy, to trust, to herself. The dark urge, perhaps the most literal fool of all, wakes with no memory, a noble without a name. You choose whether they remain chained to their urges or become something else entirely. Here, the fool teeters at the edge of a knife. Will they leap or fall? All are wounded, all are wonderful, all begin lost, either to amnesia, to ideology, or to blood. But this is what the fool represents: freedom. The freedom to step forward without knowing where the path will end. The parasite marks them all, but it is choice that defines the journey. It is not about who you were, it is about who you might become. Volo, a wizard acting as bard, self declared scholar, and tireless fool, wanders into the narrative like a drunk dream given flesh. He is not cursed, not infected, he is simply there. Insisting, embellishing, observing, he is curious. That sacred, chaotic curiosity that gets fools killed or crowned. Volo is a man who does not understand the danger he's in because danger is a footnote in his great unwritten memoir. He inserts himself into your tale with cheerful ignorance, convinced that proximity to greatness makes him grand. And in doing so, he becomes essential, not to the plot, but to the tone of the journey. He is your reminder that not all wanderers are warriors. Some survive by charm, by lies, by sheer maddening optimism. He tries to help you, even performs an eye surgery with a surgical utensil more suited for salads than science, and still you might thank him. Why? Because the fool does not offer results. He offers moments, surprise, humanity, chaos. And yet beneath his bumbling nature lies a truth. Volo seeks truth, not the divine kind nor the magical, but the truth of people, of stories. He is enchanted by your tale because it is a tale. And in the symphony of blood and gods, Volo is the wandering flute, off key yet unforgettable. Balin Bonecloak, the fool beneath. You find him swallowed by the Underdark, encased in magical spores, muttering nonsense, and completely unaware of his own peril. And yet somehow he survives, untouched by the dangers that devour the sane. He is absurd, endearing, unpredictable. Balin is not a warrior, nor a hero, nor even terribly helpful. His mind is fuzzy, his words half woven, maybe for the better. Naber greets you full of confidence, fist raised as if proving he's already a hero. He proudly introduces himself as an adventurer to be, and is absolutely determined to figure out what kind of warrior he might become, asking you whether he should be a fighter or something else. Clad in clothes from the boutique, he's more about daydreams than deeds. His excitement is contagious and genuine. He doesn't fight monsters, but fights for an identity. He doesn't seek gold or glory, only purpose. Naber is the whimsical echo of the fool in a mortal's clothes, overflowing with potential, laced with earnest hope, and utterly untested. The magician. The arcane practitioner is a thinker, a dreamer, a challenger of natural law. Magic is a language that speaks to the bones of the cosmos. The wizard, cloaked in the authority of tomes, is a magician in the most literal sense. His power inscribed, diagrammed, and replicated with scholarly discipline. From the libraries of Candlekeep to the shattered archives of sorcerous sundries. The wizard's journey is etched in ink and dust. He is heir to centuries of tradition, yet each page he fills becomes uniquely his. Many schools exist, and each suit an intention and an archetype better than the other. But can knowledge alone be trusted to wield power? What becomes of a mind when it knows too much too soon? Many other classes are able to touch the weave, but each in a different way and best suited to their own later categories. Shall we then say that every class is a face of the magician? But in truth, the magician is not a class. It's the principle of transformation, the soul that chooses to know, to speak, and to shape. Steel meets spellwork where the mind bends iron to intention. The eldritch knight weaves intellect into discipline, their blade tracing the glyphs of battle with silent calculation. Their armor becomes an arcane shell, their will a conduit for force and focus. Neither fully mage nor soldier, they are the liminal current between the physical and metaphysical, choosing no side, only synthesis. A bow drawn not by muscle but by runes. The arcane archer laces every arrow with logic, their marksmanship a diagram of potentiality unfolding midair. Where others see a target, they see a theory. Each shot is an experiment, each impact a theorem proven. Through the longbow, they rewrite the laws of battle into equations of precision. The Abjurer's spellbook is a manual of restraint. turning power inward into barrier and bastion, defender of form through spellcraft's purest edge. They are the unseen hand that holds ruin at bay, conjuring wards as others conjure destruction, mastering a magic that preserves rather than breaks. Gale of Waterdeep. Of all characters, Gale Decarios is the most direct incarnation of the magician. A wizard in the classical sense, yes, but more than that, a creature of unbearable intention. He is not merely a student of the weave, he is its suitor, its transgressor, and perhaps its would-be martyr. But when denied ultimate communion, Gale turned to forbidden knowledge, a Netherese destruction orb fused within his own chest. His body becomes a beacon of the arcane, and his possible ruin the price of overreach. To know too much, to love too deeply, to believe one's will alone can rewrite divine law. Perhaps it can. Gale's arc is alchemical, knowledge sublimated into sacrifice or choice. Whether he detonates in luminous obliteration or ascends with new purpose, he remains a magician caught in the moment between spell and silence. The Archmage's shadow. In the heights of sorcerous sundries dwells Loroakan, a name spoken with equal parts awe and dread. An Archmage, a curator, a collector, he is what Gale might become without conscience, without warmth. Loroakan is obsessed with knowledge, but only as possession, a magician, one who has forgotten that magic is not a trophy but a living thing. His tower is a prison of mirrors, a labyrinth of duplicated selves and hoarded spells. There is no soul in his work, only ego. Yet, what secrets has he unearthed? What did he see when he looked beyond the veil? And so we ask, what is magic, if not the invisible architecture of thought imposed upon the chaos of possibility? Is the weave merely a resource, or is it the breath of Mystra herself? And when a spell is cast, who truly is speaking? The High Priestess. That which is hidden need not be feared, only understood, and even then, not fully. Beneath the noise of sword and spell, beneath even the voice of gods and parasites, there runs a quieter current, a current of hidden doors, whispered truths, and silent watchers. This is the dominion of the High Priestess. She waits, she guards, she knows. From the moment one stumbles upon the dank crypt nestled behind a crumbling chapel facade in the ravaged beach, the High Priestess is present. A hidden button, a false sarcophagus, a wall that opens only for the curious, these are her sigils. For the world itself, when viewed through her lens, is a palimpsest, a thing overwritten but not erased. Why does Withers, that ageless, knowing thing, slumber amid the unremembered dead? The deeper one walks into Faerun, the more veils the priestess draws. Beneath the blighted village, a well leads to a spider-haunted sanctum carved by time and silence. Through the cellar of a crumbled home lies the whispering depths, home to phase spiders that blink in and out of existence like thoughts not yet formed. Each tale holds a cipher, and the lore bard knows which truths hide behind laughter. They tune the world's riddles like strings, unlocking what lies unspoken between lines. They are myth incarnate, weaving forgotten histories and fractured prophecies into a web of elegant subtext, guiding others with stories too clever to be lies. Truth is uncovered. The knowledge cleric walks cloaked in revelation, decoding time-worn secrets sealed by gods and men alike. They are archivist and oracle, custodian of wisdom remembered, touching the divine through parchment and perception alike. A whisper too deep for language, and what you serve may be neither good nor evil, only ineffable. The great old one's agent is a creature of questions without answers, their thoughts twisted by insights that do not fit inside the mind. They speak riddles because it is the only tongue their patron left them. The diviner reads time like scripture, peering into the unwritten margins of fate. Theirs is the privilege of glimpsing tomorrow before it is born. Every glance into the weave reveals a fragment of unfolding possibility, and with a subtle nudge, they tilt entire destinies. To see is to alter, and the diviner is never simply a witness. In the Shadowlands, the land itself becomes a cipher. Twilight touched, dream split. Shadows devour memory. Statues demand truth. Mirrors reflect nothing unless asked the right question. The very walls whisper lies that sound like comfort. And at the heart of Shar's temple waits a truth denied, a night song caged in forgetting. What is faith when it asks you to forget who you were? What is identity when it can be rewritten? Even Shar herself, goddess of loss and lady of secrets, is an echo, a breath that says, forget. This is the paradox the high priestess offers. To know the truth, you must walk beside it in silence. To reach the hidden door, you must first admit you do not know where it lies. Not all secrets are kept, some are protected, others chosen. Shadowheart. If ever a name carried its own omen, Shadowheart is the vessel of the High Priestess made flesh. Her identity is a crypt within a crypt, guarded by divine decree and psychological fog. Her memories stolen, her faith absolute yet brittle. Every interaction with her is a ritual of revelation. She asks for your trust while offering only mystery. She carries a relic bound to secrets so heavy they alter the air around her, and her arc is a midnight labyrinth of dualities: belief and doubt, light and loss, love and oblivion. Shadowheart evolved towards truth slowly, orbits it, circles it, dares to look, then recoils. She is the question Shar herself asks. Would you choose to remember if remembering meant pain? Shar, the sacred concealer. Shar exists beyond opposition. Her realm is defined by what remains untouched, unchosen, unspoken, unread. She is worshipped through withdrawal. Her sanctity coils inward. Devotion to Shar begins at the moment one grows weary of explanation. Her belief system is shaped like a wound, internal, sealed, remembered only by its absence. The guardian of the temple's inner sanctum, whose presence signals entry into the mysteries, but never passage through them without transformation. Memory as offering. Shar's sanctuaries ask for stories, whole lives, names, loves, placed upon obsidian altars and surrendered into stillness. For her faithful, forgetting becomes consecration. The more they lose of their former self, the closer they draw to the sacred pattern Shar upholds, the perfection of inner erasure. Her power comes from what is willingly given into obscurity. Fragments of memory float in her domain like silent prayers. Each forgetting carries weight, like a coin placed on the tongue of the dead. Shar extends this stillness across every realm she touches. She imparts with silence. To serve Shar is to become a vessel for quiet. The clergy recede. They empty themselves of personal history, emotion, ambition. This is why the gauntlet of Shar as a sculptor, the rituals it refined through subtraction. Those who pass through its halls with devotion intact have already become what Shar desires. The soft step trial. Step unseen. Let the world move around you without noticing your breath. This is the outermost threshold, the first silence the initiate must embody. To pass, one must walk the corridor as if they were never there, avoiding flame, avoiding sound, avoiding notice. This test lies in the willingness to not leave a trace. One learns how to withhold one's presence, to become so still the world forgets it must respond. The initiate becomes a shadow only when they cease to seek shape. This trial teaches reverence for space, the elegance of non interruption, the first breath of sacred concealment. The faith step trial. Step forward with no ground beneath you. Let your weight fall into the unseen. There are no lines to follow, no edges, no guidance, only the call to walk where the eye can no longer guide the foot. This is the second veil, the surrender of certainty. Where the first trial silenced the body, this one stills the mind. Thought no longer serves. Logic offers no path. Movement becomes trust, sharpened to ritual. Here, the initiate is asked to act without confirmation, to continue without answer. In mystery traditions, this is the passage through shadow, where direction ceases and will alone carries the seeker forward. The path only holds when you cease searching for it. Each step into emptiness becomes an act of silent affirmation. The self-same trial. Face yourself. Move through what has followed you silently since the beginning. The mirror rises. It wears your features. It knows your rhythm. It does not speak. It does not falter. It strikes with your own intent. You own shadow. The initiate must see clearly. What stands before them is a shape crafted from habits, masks, reflexes, everything worn to appear whole. The confrontation asks, can you separate the constructed from the essential? In inner rites, this is the moment of transfiguration, through endurance of recognition. Each of reached the silent library, hidden deep within the gauntlet of Shar, a sanctuary of memory withheld, a cathedral of unfinished thoughts, a space where the act of knowing folds into reverence and restraint, only the hush of something ancient, preserved beneath breath and beyond explanation into a sphere of silence. The air changes before the door opens. It thickens with the presence of what has been deliberately forgotten. The texts within sealed by intent, many of them cannot be read, some should not be. There are volumes in this room that contain names unspoken for centuries, names once attached to angels, weapons that are not quite weapons in the first place, betrayals and holy contradictions, names removed because their continued presence would unravel too much. Teachings of Loss, the Night Singer. At the heart of this structure lies a book bound in echo, the Tome of Loss. The tome contains the forgotten names of deities, sealed truths, fragments of ancient rites. To read it is to understand why some truths were placed beneath stone and silence forever. The trial exists to thin the boundary between self and silence. One by one, the distractions of surface life are carved away. The need to be acknowledged, the craving for control, the illusion of being one single solid thing. At the end of these rites, the initiate arrive with less noise, less weight, less urgency to be known. This is how the gauntlet prepares the soul for sacred proximity. The chamber of loss, sanctuary of self-unmaking. Tucked beneath the house of grief, beneath even the rituals of silence and remembrance, lies this hidden shrine. Few reach it, fewer still emerge unchanged. The mirror of loss, a divine interface. The mirror awaits. Approach it, and it shows you only what you already feel, shaped into questions you've tried to forget. Those who commune with the mirror are offered a rare and sacred decision to surrender a piece of themselves in exchange for something undefined, a ritual of willful fragmentation. Shadow Druids, keepers of nature's silence, where the circle of the land whispers of balance and the circle of the moon invokes primal flux, the Shadow Druids do neither. Their devotion lies in preservation through elimination. They believe that nature's purity can only be restored when civilization is swallowed, when the overgrowth takes back what was stolen. They move through the world like invasive roots, unseen, patient, and deadly when provoked. Their work is invisible until it blooms, and by then it is too late. Shadow Druids operate from deep behind the scenes, manipulating the Emerald Grove's tensions through figures like Kaga, twisting her fears into sacred mandate. But even Kaga is only a vessel, that of course, if they are discovered, secrets are never merely hidden. They are guarded, not always by blades, but by questions. Are you willing to descend? Will you listen to silence long enough to hear its message? Do you understand that knowledge often comes at the price of unmaking certainty? As the city of Baldur's Gate yawns open, the secrets grow personal. Hidden basements behind family manors. Even in the house of grief, truth wears mourning robes, pleasure masks, pain, Love hides manipulation. Desire is used as camouflage. Here, the high priestess asks not whether you can uncover the truth, but whether you're prepared to see it. Even in the mind itself, there are locked doors, and she holds the key to teach you how to ask. So ask yourself, which doors did you pass without noticing? Which choices were yours, and which were made for you while you dreamt? The Empress. The Empress makes her first major seat in the Emerald Grove, a sanctuary carved into the wilds, where nature is both refuge and fortress. This is a place of tension, where healing rites are whispered beside rituals of defense, where children play among thorns, and druids debate the meaning of protection as if it were a branch that might snap in either direction. After all, a grove is not just a term for trees gathered together, it is a covenant with the natural world, held in sacred geometry. At its center stands the idol of Silvanus, a wooden effigy of the oak father, god of wild nature, and the masculine reflection of growth unbound. But the energy of the Empress coils beneath his shadow from root and flower to stitch flesh back to wholeness. Yet even here she bleeds. Kaga, acting archdruid in Halsin's absence, has corrupted the Empress's path. In embracing the rite of thorns, she mimics nature's cruelty without heeding its harmony. She turns vines into weapons, roots into walls, and perverts Sylvanus's cycle of life and decay into blind reaction of pure fear. If complete, the ritual turns the nurturing into exclusionary, and the healing garden becomes a noose. Still, there are those who resist this perversion. Halsin, High Druid of the Grove, remains loyal to balance. His connection to the wild is not dominion but dialogue. He leaves the grove to investigate the latest events, but gets trapped by goblins in the way. His absence speaks volumes. When the healer leaves the sanctuary to cure a greater sickness, the garden begins to close its fists. Even the ritual spaces echo this duality. The ritual circle used by Kaga sits among blooming vines, but their purpose is strangulation. The Empress is present, but she is being tested, and yet beyond the grove's conflict, her seeds are scattered elsewhere, and vines have reclaimed stone, a soft path through leaf and shadow. It is the Empress offers a choice, to detour or destroy, with fury and the voice of the beasts. The wild heart barbarian becomes creature and chorus, an emissary of instinct and unspoken law. Their fury is rooted in the earth, drawn up from paw print and howl, calling forth the power of ecosystems that remember what civility forgot. Every heartbeat resonates with a primal ancestry that predates kingdoms and crowns, sworn to the old powers that predate thrones. The paladin of the ancients is a sentinel of sacred groves, armor etched with myths still living. They are the bloom on the battlefield, the root in the ruin, binding justice to the green law of life itself. Their oath is sung in birdsong and thunder. Vitality can be guarded by the life cleric's touch, returning the warmth of the sun to cold flesh, a conduit of pulse and bloom. Each spell they cast is a petition for growth, a renewal of balance that resists entropy's advance. They are stewards, grounding every miracle in patience, humility, and radiant care. The nature cleric is root and branch, a sermon spoken in moss and storm, their faith present on sacred groves and silent thickets, where life and decay are equally divine. To them, divine law is written in bark, river, and seasonal shift. The land druids, of course, are the very echo nature. Soil remembers them, and wind bends in silent recognition. Each terrain they walk infuses them as memory, the long, slow memory of the earth itself. In deserts or tundras, their magic is shaped by the soul of the land, never stolen, only borrowed. Beyond herbs and druids, we find her again in Auntie Ethel's tea house, a place cloaked in healing, fragrance, and invitation. Yet beneath the perfume, decay, a corrupted empress once more, offering herbal cures laced with bargain and curse. But even in Ethel's lair, the Empress reveals her truth. In the swampy roots that clutch her den, in the cursed masks carved from bark and grief, we see that nature reflects, exaggerates. It punishes those who try to steal its power without honoring its law. In the wilds, mushrooms mark her quiet dominion. Below we find fungus hybrid of fauna and flora or something entirely different. Timask spores, used in certain potion recipes, contain psychoactive properties, echoing the Empress's link to altered states, intuition, dream, and the soft edges between healing and hallucination. Beneath the surface, in the bioluminescent hush of the Underdark, we find her wearing a stranger face, the soft and alien bloom of fungi. Here, in the quiet kingdom of spores, rules the sovereign Myconid, a being neither male nor female, neither beast nor plant. But its rule mirrors the Empress's deeper truth, connection before command. Their governance is empathy, a spore based telepathy that shares not only thoughts but memory, sensation, grief. And when you accept the spore and join the circle, you become more, wider, rooted in collective being. Under Sovereign's guidance, decay becomes renewal. Rot is not death, it is digestion. Even the dead are offered place in this system. The Sovereign teaches life and death are not opposites, they are phases of nourishment. But not all who grow seek harmony. In the shadow of the Myconid sovereign, another voice stirs, soft as mold, sharp as ambition. Glut speaks not of communion but of command. He offers you a pact, help him dethrone the sovereign, and he will crown himself in spores and rot. He uses resurrection as leverage, his cycle, conquest disguised as renewal. Glut does not serve the Empress, he usurps her. He wears the semblance of life giver but dreams of thrones. And so we move to the Shadowlands. Sunlight strangled, photosynthesis arrested, and the pulse of green smothered in necrotic fog. Shadow. Blights de-emerge from corrupted groves, guarding trees that drip not with sap but ichor, symptoms of a world rewired. Even the twisted trees, gnarled and blackened, seem to ache toward a light that never comes. There is a sorrow here, a lesson perhaps, that healing is not always possible. Once this was the domain of life, now branches twist as if in agony, and moss grows brittle underfoot. Even the birds are silent. A boy tied to the land itself, whose existence reflects its vitality. To save him is more than merely heal a child, it is to resuscitate nature. Halcyon, if freed, becomes nature agent once more. He seeks to retrieve Oliver, Thaniel's missing half, a psychic splinter trapped in grief and shadow, in memory now, in gesture, not grove. The Emperor. Where the world is form, the Emperor is function, structure crystallized into command. This is the architecture of will as decree, the word that becomes law, the hand that draws borders upon the formless ground. It governs through the belief that hierarchy is necessary, that systems must be upheld, lest all fall into dissolution. It is the arcana of empires and emblems, of doctrine, bureaucracy, military, and oaths sworn in blood. It rules invisible crowns and hidden contracts. In Baldur's Gate 3, this archetype courses through the scaffolding of city and strategy, throne and trap, tyranny and protection alike. The ruins we tread in the wilderness are the remnants of rule. The goblin camp squats within the shattered husk of a Selûnite temple, its sanctity overturned by the bludgeon law of Minthara and her ilk. Here command exists, crude, cruel, but absolute. Yet even this barbaric order imitates a structure. It mimics discipline. The goblins follow a chain of leadership, worship a divine figurehead, and impose obedience through fear. In their chaos, we glimpse a primitive parody of the emperor. But deeper still is the cult of the absolute. It is more a design than a religion. The hierarchies it erects are precise: three chosen generals, an inner sanctum of true believers, illithid parasites that act as both chain and communication. A hive mind governed by a central will, it is ruled but by infection, obedience written into flesh. The Absolute is a throne wearing a mask. Even within our own camp, the concept of command begins to ripple. Who leads? Who decides? As the protagonist ascends in power, the question of structure becomes personal. They become a node of decision, an emergent emperor in the making. War Cleric. Order forged in fire. The War Cleric carries the edicts of battle like scripture, hammering law into chaos with divine resolve. They are discipline clad in wrath, uniting structure and storm into holy dominion. Where others see bloodshed, they see a sanctified order in motion. Crown Paladin. The Crown Paladin is sovereignty made flesh, upholding the laws of kingdom and consequence. Their shield is not just defense, it is precedent, the embodiment of ancestral duty. Every decision they make is a legacy engraved upon the present. Champion Fighter. The champion needs no flair, only precision. In each strike lies years of repetition, mastery sharpened until even chance bows before them. They are the ideal made real. Battle Master Fighter. Strategy carved into motion. Every strike a maneuver, every breath a feint. The Battle Master is the game board's master, the war's hidden mind. Behind every blow is a dozen decisions, a general disguised as gladiator. Their battlefield is chessboard, their sword a thesis. Hexblade Warlock. The Hexblade binds weapon to will, making of their armament a cursed extension of intent. They aim, making destiny itself bleed. Their authority comes from the inevitability they represent. Swashbuckler Rogue. To duel is to dominate. The swashbuckler is finesse incarnate, commanding attention with every sidestep, every flourish, every word unsheathed. Combat becomes theater, and they always steal the final scene. To cross blades with them is to enter a performance you were never ready for. Enchantment Wizard. Authority without chains. The enchanter bands will without touch, their dominion stitched into speech, suggestion, and the velvet of illusions believed. Their power is given willingly and unaware. Rulership through affection, loyalty conjured like a spell veiled in grace. Ketheric Thorm, once a paladin and protector, now wears the trappings of necromantic might. His tower Moonrise stands as fortress and administrative center for the Absolute's expansion. Papers, guards, supply routes. It is an empire under shadow. Yet Ketheric is but one of the three. His reign is military. But Ketheric reveals something essential. Authority can be rooted in grief. In the name of loss, he turned to rule. The emperor does not always rise from ambition. Sometimes he is forged in ruin and justified by pain. Within Moonrise, the rituals of the Absolute continue. Doctrine is repeated, rank is obeyed, but none of it breathes truth, it breathes control. The chain of command leads always upward toward the unreachable. This, too, is the Emperor's lesson that structure can become prison when its origin is hollow. When we reach the city, the illusion of freedom thins. Baldur's Gate is a web of systems, governing bodies, trade consortiums, noble houses, the Flaming Fist acting as both police and military. At a glance, it appears functional, but every system is infected, infiltrated, distorted by the ambitions of a new would-be emperor, Gortash. His steel watch is the apex of his ideology. Automatons who obey without question, loyal beyond corruption, dispensing order without emotion. In them, we see the emperor in his coldest incarnation, the Machine King, the architect of a system so tight it leaves no room for dissent. He stages a coronation to finalize the fiction of celebration, a man crowned by his own constructs in a city too fractured to protest. And then there is the actual character named the Emperor, the one who walks beside us, an illithid who names himself our ally, who claims to guide us through the maze of the astral prism. a creature born of domination and consumption now offering partnership. He speaks with logic, he acts with efficiency. He promises protection and offers strategy. But can such a being truly embody the Emperor? Or is he merely the echo of one, a shadow cast by the absence of trust? In the realm of occult thought, the emperor must be founded on legitimacy. Hermetic tradition would ask, what is the source of authority? In a world shaped by gods and parasites, rebellions and rituals, true sovereignty is rare. Authority here is both mask and mechanism, and the emperor? Perhaps he is not the one who sits on the throne, but the one who built the stairs to reach it. The Hierophant. In the tongues of the faithful, the gods are infrastructure. They move behind the scenes like old gears in a celestial machine, ticking, grinding, whispering commandments in dream and omen. In this realm, they breathe through war chants, radiate through miracles, and bind the will of their servants with unbreakable oaths. Law written in stars, devotion given form. But who are the voices behind the veil? Which gods truly matter in this specific turning of ages? Mistra, Lady of the Weave, goddess of magic, balance, and the art of arcana. Though more present in the magician category, deserves mention here, for magic, in her eyes, is sacred law. She governs spellcraft with the solemnity of a high priest. Her chosen are often both wizard and worshipper. Gale, the tragic arcane prodigy, is marked by her, and though his story bends toward self-destruction, the core of his character is religious. He loved a goddess and lost her. His rituals, his obsession with magical perfection, they echo the Hierophant's yearning for divine approval. Shar, Mistress of Loss, was already focused in depth in our early mentions, so let's look into her other half. Selunin, the Moon Maiden, goddess of the moon, of renewal, of light's mercy, the very opposite face of Shar. Her name glows softly in the mouths of the pious, her presence invoked in quiet prayers and healing touch. Her clergy stand as beacons. Isabel, the Selunite cleric in the Last Light Inn, is one such light, her magic forming an actual sanctuary, repelling the darkness of the shadow curse. In Seluni's name, miracles become shelter. Lathander, the Morning Lord, god of birth, hope, renewal, and youthful ambition. Though his temples are fewer in this age, his dawn still breaks. The Temple of Lathander, found desecrated in the Rosimorn Monastery, tells of glory faded but not forgotten. His is the fire of beginnings, of purpose yet unfulfilled. Even in ruin, Lathander's essence lingers, through light-themed relics, solar symbology, and the radiant spells left behind in holy tomes. Tyr, the even-handed, god of justice, blindfolded and burning. Tyr's followers are not soft-spoken. His tenets call for impartial law, sacrifice, and punishment proportionate to sin. His presence is felt most strongly in the legacy of the Hell Riders and certain paladin oaths. Yet where Tyr walks, mercy trembles. The Hierophant archetype becomes ironclad. The temple is a courtroom and the prayer a verdict. His justice is blind, sometimes brutally so. Baal, lord of murder, a god worshipped in slaughter. Though not a god of holy texts or high ceremony, Baal is nonetheless one of the most theologically present deities in the game. His name hangs over the narrative like a blade held aloft. His cultists carve scripture into the world with blood. The dark urge, if followed, reveals Baal's dogma in action, a doctrine of death for death's sake, where the Hierophant figure becomes the executioner, the high priest a butcher. The devotion paladin holds the line not for glory or gain, but for the sanctity of the oath itself. They are relic and revelation, living scripture in steel. In their eyes burns the light of 10,000 prayers, a beacon not of pride, but of purity, unwavering amid chaos. Lolth, the Spider Queen, goddess of chaos, betrayal, and ruthless ambition. In the depths of the Underdark, hierophancy fractures. Lolth's priestesses through domination and cruelty, her clergy with poisoned words and sharpened fangs. Her webs bind even as they ensnare. The Hierophant becomes a tyrant cloaked in scripture and venom. Minor mentions and background flavor. Il Mater, god of endurance and martyrdom. Presence. Occasional invocations, name found on inscriptions or minor flavor texts. Kelemvor, god of the dead, mentioned in death rites, a few tomb inscriptions. No direct narrative arc or followers appear. Gods with no meaningful presence in BG3, these are major deities in Faerun, but absent in BG3's story. Tempest, War, Ogma, Knowledge, Suna, Love, Corellon, Elvenkind, Gond, Craft, etc. They may appear on a cleric's domain list in character creation, but the game never references them in lore, world building, or dialogue. And as we walk the paths of the faithful in this world, the question deepens. Is it the divine that commands belief, or belief that conjures the divine? The lovers. In the tarot, the lover stands at the threshold where desire meets consequence. It speaks of bonds, romantic or otherwise, but also of the choices that define them. Harmony and heartbreak, union and separation coexist in its shadow. It is not a promise of happiness, but a challenge to choose knowing that no choice is without cost. Shadowheart, faith, and distance. Your first interactions with Shadowheart are marked by guarded trust. She keeps her allegiance to Shar close, but the potential for romantic interest is present early, especially during camp scenes where she opens up. She warms to those who show pragmatism, protectiveness, and a subtle defiance of moral rigidity. If you ignore her or consistently challenge her belief system, her approval will remain low, cutting off romance. If you exclude her from the gauntlet of Shar or allow Balthazar to take the night song, she will leave permanently. No persuasion can reverse this. To love Shadowheart is to walk beside secrecy. Her arc reflects the lovers as the space between the seen and the concealed, between devotion and awakening. Astarion, desire and control. Astarion's flirtation is bold, immediate, but the deeper bond comes through trust. Letting him feed on you without judgment strengthens intimacy. But he is watching for rejection, masked as morality. Romance with Astarion requires acceptance of his hunger, but not indulgence in his self destruction. If you hand him over to Gandrel, or if his ascension ritual is disrupted after being encouraged, he may permanently leave or become hostile. Push him too hard to reform, and you risk losing him emotionally, even if he stays. Astarion embodies the dual nature of desire in the lovers, physical attraction bound with ethical tension. The choice becomes, do you love who he is or who you want him to become? Lae'zel, respect and rebellion. Lae'zel's bond forms through strength. She respects dominance, clarity, and alignment with Gith values, or at least the willingness to confront them head on. Romance can be initiated through assertive dialogue early in camp, and her feelings can deepen with mutual battlefield respect. If you refuse to help her in the creche or speak against Vlaakith during the Inquisitor scene without enough persuasion, she may leave the party. She channels the lovers as a test of will. To be with her, you must choose her worldview or challenge it skillfully. There is no passive harmony here, only mutual fire. She demands singular devotion or departure. Gale enters with charm, intellect, and a dangerous secret. Feed his need for magical artifacts and engage with his inner vulnerability, and the romance will naturally emerge. His love is gentle, but it demands attention, consistency, and subtlety. Failing to stabilize his condition with artifacts may cause him to leave if he believes you're endangering him. Ignoring Elminster's request or mocking his condition deeply damages trust. Gale represents the lovers through quiet devotion, requiring steady support, not grand gestures. But like the weave itself, he unravels if neglected. Will, honor and conflict. Will's romantic arc is defined by ideals. His hatred for devils and need for nobility guide his choices. Treat Mizora with respect, or worse, flirt with her, and the bond shatters. Aligning with Minthara or Mizora's methods fractures his moral alignment. If he feels you're abandoning his principles, he may leave or emotionally detach. Will is the lover's in the form of moral fidelity. To love him, you must also love what he stands for. Halcyon, healing and possibility. Halcyon is technically unavailable until later, but his presence sets the tone for a fundamental choice. Will you save the grove and welcome his guidance, or burn it down and sever that path? Romance becomes available only later, but here the foundation is set. He is polyamorous, but still possesses boundaries and a deep spiritual focus on balance and care. If the grove is attacked and he is not rescued, he may be permanently lost. He embodies the lovers as the healer, connection through preservation. But like nature itself, he will not flourish in scorched ground. You chose the path of balance, gave shelter to the lost, yet do you cherish his gentleness or merely seek refuge in his strength? Minthara, obedience and dominion. Minthara offers a very different flavor of love, commanding, ideological, and cruel. To earn her trust, you must side with her in the goblin raid, destroy the druid grove, and follow her path. If she survives, she becomes a romance option. Minthara is the forbidden path in the lovers, a love forged in destruction, lustful and absolute. She demands devotion not just to her but to her cause. If love is forged in conquest, can it ever be gentle? Or does her kiss is only poison? Mizora, the temptress contractual. Mizora is the card inverted, the lovers undone by vanity. She cannot be romanced in the traditional sense, but she will insert herself into any heart she sees wavering. Accept her once, and others may vanish. Will especially sees her presence not as temptation but as sacrilege. She offers pleasure without promise, power with a smile. But when the pact is sealed, whose soul is truly burning? Karlach. In the current of passion and choice, Karlach's story burns brightest. Her body is a furnace, her heart a wounded flame, yet she reaches for closeness despite the fire that sears. The infernal engine makes touch itself a torment, and intimacy becomes a struggle between yearning and pain. Every gesture with her carries the weight of impossible desire, the hope of love beyond what flesh can endure. She embodies the raw paradox of union, the wish to merge, set against the boundaries of what her body can survive. In her, the lover's archetype is sweetness, but also trial, sacrifice, and the fight to keep tenderness alive against the machinery of damnation. The Emperor. Power and authority shape even the suggestion of intimacy in his path, and when he steps into a moment that feels closer, it carries the charge of dominance entwined with vulnerability. It is brief, more a shadow than a full embrace, yet it hints of not emotional type of connection. Oscar Favras, the ghost of a former life, is just an artist, stolen and sold into shadows. You can purchase his freedom for a modest fee, or bargain him out through more assertive methods. But to free him is to unlock a different story, one that waits in Baldur's Gate. There his romance unfolds with Lady Ethel's curse still hanging over him, a spirit that twists his heart into an echo chamber of regret and torment. You must exorcise the ghost that clings to him, and in doing so help him reclaim the love he nearly lost. He is not a companion, not your lover, but he is a test of love's resilience. Cheris's caress is the most literal, paradoxically and nuanced manifestation of the lovers. It's not just a brothel, it's a temple of indulgence, desire, and performance. On the surface, Cheris's caress is pure indulgence, a place to buy pleasure, roleplay, fantasy, or release tension before the final war begins. But beneath the perfume and silken sheets, it is a test of boundaries, identities, and intimacy. Mamselle Amira. She greets you like a goddess wrapped in rouge, orchestrating the pleasures of others without ever revealing what she desires herself. In Amira, we see a figure who connects others but remains untouched. Her domain is not love, but the illusion of it. She arranges the pairings, curates the desires, but in her eyes, is there anyone who truly sees her? Amira is never romanceable, yet she is central, because she is the gatekeeper of this temple, and she offers the protagonist the same question the lovers always asks: do you want connection or just the fantasy of it? Within the upper chambers, clients of power seek tailored fantasies. These courtesans love, or at least the impersonation of it. They shift personas, echo ideals, flatter identities. Among the patrons you may find smugglers, spies, or agents of the Black Network. Their presence reveals how pleasure is politicized, even weaponized. Chares's Caress is a place where secrets spill under moonlight and trust is often a coin. Behind one velvet curtain you may find Neem and Sorn Arlith, drow twins whose skin gleams like polished obsidian beneath candlelight. They speak little of themselves, offering no illusion of romance, only companionship, reflection, and shared experience. For a coin's price, they offer presence, an intimate rite, shared with your lover or lovers. Some companions may join you, others may watch. Every origin protagonist have their own dialogues depending on the choices here. Not surprisingly, in a secluded chamber above, among incense and steam, lies Nawis Nalinto, a courtesan of a different kind. Where others flirt with fantasy, she stares directly into the taboo. When a mind flayer transforms mid-session and you strike it down, she remains intrigued. If you sense the undercurrent in her, if you see her truth and name it, she offers something stranger than just her body, rapture. It is not a potion, not a charm, it is a state, an intimate high woven from tension and release, granting you a temporary boon, heightened clarity, sharpened strikes, and grace that lingers until your next rest. A moment of power born from raw vulnerability. Together, these encounters paint a fuller portrait of what the lover's card encompasses: fleeting intimacy, embodied contradiction, and moments that change nothing outwardly, yet shift everything within. Valor Bard. In them, melody becomes union. The Valor Bard lifts others through ballads of shared glory, weaving strength from harmony. On the battlefield of bonds, they are the voice that turns fractured wills into one resounding chord. The Chariot. The chariot rides where desire is transmuted into direction. It is a force sharpened into purpose, unyielding even when the path splits into ruin. Who drives their own course? Who lashes ambition into speed, carving destiny by the wheel and not the wind? Kithrak Voss cuts through this question like a blade across taut silk. A Githyanki commander, his allegiance is etched in blood and stars. Sworn to Vlaakith, yet his steps betray doubt. He speaks of freedom, of a future unshackled by undead tyranny. But can a war-chosen rider truly veer from the Lich Queen's road? Or is even descent part of her far-reaching yoke? In him the chariot shudders, split between loyalty and liberation, between cosmic conquest and the quiet pull of a different fate. The mount obeys, but the destination remains blurred in astral fog. Lae'zel, by contrast, is pure motion. She does not question the path, she is the path. Her will is a spear already flying huge speed. She rushes forward with a righteousness sharpened by indoctrination, convinced that survival demands obedience and honor lies in victory. Yet even her armor cracks in the face of truth. As her belief is tested by Voss, by Orpheus, by her own reflection, the chariot begins to skid. The question arises: if your will was forged by another, can your victory ever be your own? The absolute cult, too, seeks dominion through movement, not through conversion, annexation, and growth. Their chariot is collective, many bodies tethered to a single blinding command. the hobgoblin warlord Dror, the priestess Gut, the drow true soul Minthara, all charge forward, intoxicated by the promise of unity. But unity, when imposed, becomes a machine, and a machine with no brakes is catastrophic. What is the price of propulsion when it obeys not the soul but a parasite? Karlach burns with motion, literal, searing, unstoppable. Her engine heart is a death sentence and a freedom. She charges to feel, to live, to escape the hells that branded her. Her chariot is flame and sorrow, joy and oblivion braided together in each choice. She rides knowing the end, and still she rides. Is this not the purest form of will? If freedom is a path walked despite destruction, then hers is the most heroic charge. In Hermetic thought, the chariot is the vessel by which divine light travels through limitation. The tiefling refugees of the Emerald Grove carry another form of chariot, Exodus. They ride with roots torn and futures uncertain. Their movement is survival, their direction dictated by those in power. So, what happens when the chariot is denied? When motion is coerced, not chosen? The soul still yearns for self direction, even when yoked to circumstance. More important, even, what moves you? College of Swords Bard. Poetry in motion, momentum incarnate. The Swords Bard blurs the line between dance and duel, weaving steel into the story of speed. Their footwork is doctrine, their flourish a signature of pursuit and style. Hunter Ranger. Pursuit sharpened to predation. The Hunter Ranger is movement honed into method, relentless and direct. Their arrows fly not just fast but inevitable, an expression of intent closing distance. Blade Singing Wizard. Arcane Velocity. The Blade Singer fuses spell and step into an unstoppable rhythm, a tempo of speed and sorcery where elegance itself becomes momentum. They do not run, they glide through threat. Strength. Where tooth and talon carve fate's decree, there are truths the intellect cannot decipher, only endured in flesh and bone. In the world of Faerun, strength often prowls before it speaks. From the owlbear's den to the cursed lairs of shadow-twisted monstrosities, nature reveals itself as sovereign. Wargs, ridden by goblins, cruel cunning glinting in their eyes. The hyenas themselves, offspring and scavengers, laugh with hunger. They feed on the wake of death, and yet they thrive. Packs of gnolls, hyena-headed fiends, driven, they are hunger incarnate. In strength, they represent the archetype twisted, feral, without soul. Mimics, monstrous tricksters hiding as chess. Nature again, in twisted form. Survival by becoming what others seek. The owlbear, massive and mournful, guards her cave with a strength forged from grief. She does not seek battle, yet her wrath is real and righteous. If the Empress sings of life, then strength shows the fury of protecting it. And what do we make of the cub? Can tenderness grow amid fang and gore, or is the cub's path already written in red? Scratch. Loyal and mourning. Us, the brain with a name, proves that even aberrant minds can show strange loyalty. Strength in these beings is in their bond to you. The Githyanki patrols, riding red dragons, a legacy of militant tradition and supremacy. Summons echo this idea, a conjurer's strength borrowed from beasts. The fine familiar spell offers lesser forms. Cats with knowing eyes, ravens who see beyond veils, and quasi-tricksters who blend fiend and pet. Their frailty is misleading. Here, companionship is a form of might, subtle and strange. Each archetype of Earth's resilience and ferocity, the land's memory given fang and wing. And then, deep in the Underdark, we find monstrosities far beyond. The Hook horrors shriek through stone like knives on slate, twisted, alien, and purposeful. The Minotaur's thunder guided by instinct and warped remnants of honor. Giant spiders and addercaps who build lairs in abandoned towers. Predators of patience. They remind us that strength can be stillness. The bullet stirs beneath the soil. a living siege engine of ancient appetite. To stand before it is to face raw, impersonal force. The spectator in the underdark, chained to a duty long past. But where lies the line between creature and challenge? Does the measure of strength come from overcoming it, or in choosing not to disturb its slumber? The barbarian class embodies the archetype fully, rage as its primal fury. The wild heart especially exemplifies strength, drawing essence from elk, tiger, eagle, bear, or wolf, becoming nature's weapon itself. Berserker barbarian. They are storm without restraint, fury uncut by doubt. The berserker is strength distilled into instinct, a tempest of tendon and roar. In them, rage becomes a rhythm older than thought. Path of the giant barbarian. Size is more than muscle, it is myth. The giant barbarian becomes titanic by burden willingly borne. Every step is seismic, every blow carved from the deep memory of colossal things. Draconic sorcerer. Power that breathes. The draconic sorcerer carries ancient blood in burning veins, and their strength is not borrowed, it is remembered. Scales shimmer beneath the skin, and in their voice echoes the command of wings and flame. Beast, Master, Ranger. Their soul is divided only to be mirrored. The Beastmaster forges kinship through silent trust, fighting not alone but beside a companion whose instincts speak the same unspoken truths. Swarmkeeper Ranger. Strength in numbers in harmony. The Swarmkeeper is never truly alone, each gesture guided by a living cloud of stinging guardians. Their will diffuses across wings and mandibles a tide of tiny might. Way of the Drunken Master Monk. Disorder as discipline. The Drunken Master turns chaos into control, staggering past assumptions with strikes that seem accidental but land with sublime precision. Their strength lies in motion too wild to be read. Moon Druid, shifting shape as act of will. The Moon Druid bends into beasts not to mimic but to become. Through fur and claw they unearth what still lingers in blood, strength reawakened. Druids reveal strength through transformation. To become the beast is a surrender, a descent into instinct. The bear's roar, the spider's crawl, the cat's agility. Does strength lie in the hand that strikes, or the hand that comforts the wounded beasts? For strength is more than survival. It is about dignity, under claw, under tooth, under blood and roar. It is the heart that does not break, even when the bones do. The hermit, solitude can be a choice, but often emerges as the aftermath of loss, the echo of revelation, or the instinct to preserve some flickering flame of inner truth. The hermit walks these margins, between the map's edges and memory's folds, between silence and what silence reveals. Deep beneath the surface, in twisting underways and abandoned sanctuaries, the light bearers of insight walk alone. Some vanish into the shadow, never to return. Others re-emerge, altered, haunted, luminous, or mad. In the hermit's gaze, both ruin and revelation become indistinguishable. The creaking husk of the arcane tower rises amidst the rotting forest like a forgotten spine. Its guardian, Bernard, stands still, reciting poetry written by a master now long vanished. But is this golem truly abandoned, or is he a vestige of purpose still bound to an ideal? And what of the astral plane itself, that liminal sea beyond the stars, where time folds like parchment and the soul unspools into strands? It is the final hermit's path. The hermit's presence is subtle, a hidden passage behind a bookcase, a faint outline on the map, suggesting a cave where no quest marker points. The skeleton of a philosopher with one last note in hand. These are not always main stories, but they matter. They ask to pause, to look inward and ask, what have I overlooked? What have I silenced within myself that now speaks again? Hermetic wisdom teaches that illumination comes from the ember guarded in the dark. The hermit seems to reject the world, but it actually reflects it. Barkus Root, a gnome inventor constantly found in precarious positions, first trapped under a windmill, Despite his comic presentation, Barkus is a seeker of lost knowledge, especially regarding his friend Wulbren and gnomish freedom. He follows strange clues, chases disappearances, and frequently acts alone. He walks dangerous paths most wouldn't bother treading. Arabella. Should she survive, Arabella becomes a kind of wandering soul. She is alone, her parents dead, and the shadow curse encroaching. Yet she doesn't succumb. She discovers a latent, intuitive, magical insight, perhaps divine, perhaps druidic, or even shadowy. Her journey is one of inward growth and survival through reflection. She is a child, yet her wisdom begins to shine through grief and quiet. Wheel of Fortune. The wheel of fortune turns. Its motion is lawless law, rhythm without reason. Within Farron, we trace its revolution through systems too chaotic to be tamed and too pivotal to be dismissed. Dice rolls, wild magic, random encounters, gambles of resurrection. Each is a spoke on this wheel, each spinning toward unseen outcomes. Consider the very engine of action, the D20. A priest's plea for healing, a rogue's stealth, a lover's persuasion, all weighed by the same indifferent polyhedron. The gods may answer, or they may watch in silence as chance drowns hope in a single unlucky breath. What is divine favor then, if not the manipulation of odds? Wild magic barbarian. The wild magic barbarian channels volatility like a lightning rod for cosmic mischief. Every rage is a gamble, every swing a dice roll from the universe itself. Wild magic sorcerer. Their birthright is unpredictability. The wild magic sorcerer casts not knowing what may answer. They are the child of dice and stars, dancing at the edge of calamity with spark-laced laughter. To the aleatory, trusting that the wheel spins toward meaning even when no meaning is visible. Justice. Justice as inevitability. She measures, she waits, and she returns what is due. Across Faerun, law fractures and coils like a serpent, each kingdom crafting its own commandments. But the weight of justice often falls from the hand of those willing to act. Consider the paladin. To swear an oath is to forge a contract with the cosmos itself. In this world, paladins are living instruments of consequence. Their very class mechanics reinforce it. Breaking one's oath invokes oathbreaker status as a logical echo of cause and effect. You swore, you failed. The world changed around you. Justice was not done to you. It became you. Yet among paladins, the oath of vengeance burns brightest here. This is the lex talionis, the law of retaliation. They hunt down crime until nothing remains but ash and memory. But how thin is the veil between vengeance and wrath? Can one truly serve balance when their blade leans toward punishment? And what of the Githyanki? Their martial code, so rigid and brutal, appears draconian to softer cultures. But to them, justice is a matter of divine inheritance. Vlakith is law incarnate. To disobey her is to fracture reality, and so the Gith impose order with an iron spine. Laezel is a paradox. She lives under a rigid, punitive code. The Githyanki creed grants no tolerance, no exception. But her growth, should she reject Vlakith, reveals the soul's rebellion against unjust systems. She begins as enforcer of law, but may awaken into the one who dares to rewrite it. The protagonists themselves, the ultimate arbiter. Your every act, every spared life or executed enemy becomes a stroke on the scale. Justice might be enacted through you or not. What you leave behind becomes your verdict. But what is justice in a world where choice is sovereign? When every law is mutable, every truth contested, every villain a victim in another tale. How do we know when the blade falls rightly? It reflects what you believe deserves to rise and what must be buried beneath stone. It is not always fair, it is not always kind, but it is yours. The scales are never still, and they are always watching. The hanged man between the breaths of becoming. There is a silence in sacrifice, a suspension, a breath held at the height of a choice where movement surrenders to meaning. Often it is hushed, invisible, a pause that no one sees but the soul that bears it. The oath breaker, forsaking divine law for a personal one, dwells in this space. The paladin who has stepped away from their oath floats in judgment withheld. They dangle from the thread of possibility, their powers curdled by their own conscience, their path awaiting a new decree, whether re-oathing or descent into vengeance. And what of Astarion, whose vampiric rebirth is riddled with centuries of obedience a master's leash? Though free in body, he is nailed to a past that still writhes beneath the skin. His unlife is a study in suspended animation, a soul staked to trauma. Maul, the young tiefling thief of the grove. If you follow her arc, you may uncover a surprising twist, her offer to serve Raphael in exchange for protection. She believes sacrifice is the price of leadership. She gives her soul not for power but to ensure her gang survives. It is a child's understanding of sacrifice, of her own childhood and innocence. Orpheus, the Githyanki prince, is the ultimate hanged mankit, literally entombed in a prison of psionic stasis. Held immobile in the astral prism, not dead, not free, his very being is currency. To free him is to break the seal of potential, but also to embrace the burden of his awakening. In the tower, Zealot Garingotha Thorm, the gold-obsessed undead tax collector, is a dark echo of the hanged man reversed, the mockery of sacrifice. She gave up nothing, hoarding every coin, every breath, until she became a parody of stasis. Suspended not by principle but by greed, she hangs only in rot, her vault as her own prison. Hope, chained in the house of hope, exists at the very heart of this archetype. Her name is not a metaphor, it is a blade honed by patience. For untold years she is held in bondage by Raphael, her essence siphoned to power his vault, her body never aging, never dying. She is the soul fixed in stillness, a candle never allowed to burn out. She fights by surviving, unmoving, unwavering, untouched in spirit, by centuries of hell's whispered bargains. Death. In Faerun the veil is thin. Consider Mirkul, Lord of Bones, whose withered touch is not only decay but transformation. These necromancers do not seek to end life, they seek to master it, to bind it, to warp it. They raise the dead for utility. What does this perversion say of death when it becomes a tool? Is it still sacred? Or has the natural cycle been defiled? General Ketheric Thorm, a man broken by grief who made a pact with the very god of death to bring back his beloved daughter Isabel. Balthazar, a necromancer of will. He brings back what should remain dead because he believes no death is final when power is sufficient. Faith in mastery over endings. His perversion of Dame Aelin all stem from the same occult principle, that death is only meaningful when you decide its terms. Death Cleric. Where others mourn, they minister. The Death Cleric walks the edge between grief and power, not as thief of life, but as shepherd of its end. Their prayers are dirges, their hands cold truth. Necromancy Wizard. Mastery through marrow. The necromancer sees bones as blueprints and souls as borrowed tools. They do not desecrate, they reorganize with clinical reverence for what lingers beyond. Assassin Rogue. To kill without trace is to rewrite fate. The assassin deals in final punctuation, slipping through the seams of time to end stories midward. Their art is erasure. The Spore Druid champions rot as rebirth, thriving where others recoil. In mold and mycelium, they find the architecture of all endings. And then there are the mind flayers, beings of utter transformation who consume the brain and replace it with themselves. Death not as destruction, but as complete overwrite. What does it mean to host the tadpole? Cazador Czar, a tyrant who traps souls to ascend beyond undeath into a higher vampire state. He hoards death rather than undergo it. He is stagnation disguised as eternity. Lucretius claims to commune with the dead as performance, but the carnival mocks death, turns it into theater. Is this charlatanism, or a truth passed off as spectacle to keep it safe from ridicule? What happens when sacred thresholds become punchlines? Baal's ritual murders, cultists, worship murder not as a means to an end but as a divine sacrament. Death here is fetishized, robbed of its natural rhythm, dolor and the unseen. There are killings in the city, meticulous, ritualistic, patterned in threes. Dolor, an unassuming surgeon, is orchestrating murder not for lust or vengeance, but as a rite. The death here is artful, calculated, priestly. This is murder as ritual, an inverted sacrament. It raises the question, can death be sacred if done in blood and silence? But then there is the dark urge, death embodied, a vessel sculpted by Baal, born to kill for essence. His hunger inherited through soul and song. Their hands shake from the tremor of instinct denied. The dark urge walks the world forgetting what they are until they remember. And when they remember death as identity. No one understands this better than Orin the Red. She kills because it is sacred, because death, done properly, is a stage. The altar is the body, the prayer is the scream. Her blade is communion. Every slit throat, every vanished victim, every identity she wears and sheds like skin is a verse in the liturgy of murder. She dances through death, and death in return dresses her in its red silks. Her madness is symmetrical, because to Orin the world is a chessboard of endings, and she is merely clearing the pieces for the final bloody checkmate. But the question lingers, is she what the dark urge was meant to become, or is she what the dark urge must now surpass? For if Orin is the manifestation of Baal's art, the dark urge is the canvas. A vessel that once held the same bloodlust, now splintered by doubt, by memory, withers. The cryptic undead cleric stands outside the normal cycle of life and death. He refuses to clarify his origin. He resurrects your party for gold. Why? His presence is paradoxical. He facilitates death's undoing without ever rejecting it. He may be Jurgo in disguise, or something even older. His silence becomes an occult echo. He is the keeper of the threshold, not its enforcer. Through these tangled threads, death reveals itself not always as villain but as metamorphosis, to be embraced, bargained with, postponed, or defied. And in each path, something essential is lost, yet something may also be gained. So we are left to ponder, in a world of necromancers and gods of undeath, where even time can be unraveled and souls caged. What does it truly mean to die? Temperance. The healer who knows when not to heal, the alchemist who lets poison become cure. Take the brewer's alchemy table. It's easy to overlook, tucked behind debris, half lit by mildew and memory. It exists only for the mundane miracle of blending into something healing, clarifying, or protective. Some potions restore, like the potion of greater healing, others alter, like the potion of speed, and some, like the potion of invisibility, disrupt natural order entirely, turning presence into absence. Each is an essay in balance. Drink with discernment, or be undone by the very elixir meant to preserve you. Healer Natty in the Druid Grove. Her name seems safe, her job clear. But then you realize she's laced her cure with poison. A mercy killing, she says, a precaution against infection. This is no kindly nurse. She is temperance. In its most brutal form, medicine spiked with death, hope filtered through paranoia. Do you expose her, stop her, or accept her as a necessary evil in a world already sick with worse? Araj Oblodra, the drow alchemist obsessed with your blood. She's a walking test of this arcana. Her research balances on the line between curiosity and violation. When she asks for your blood, your spit, your very essence, what do you say? Give in and you allow the mingling of substances, the hermetic ideal of fusion. Refuse and you preserve the boundary of self. Jahera brings temperance in her poise. A harper, a survivor, a woman who has walked through grief and returned measured. Her restraint is her weapon, in her strategy, her patience, and her capacity to blend fury with vision. She offers a rare portrait of temperance in command. She reminds us moderation is not inaction, it's control over reaction. Way of the open hand monk, balance in every breath. The open hand monk tempers violence with serenity, there strikes both cessation and correction. They are equilibrium incarnate. Four elements, monk. They channel the world's pulse through their flesh, binding breath to the storm and footfall to flame. Blends extremes into cohesion, mastering contradiction. Temperance is the silence between extremes where the real work begins. The devil. The devil tempts with pleasure and binds through willful surrender. It takes many faces, some beautiful, some grotesque, all transactional. The most brazen effigy of this is Raphael, charming, erudite, infernal. He offers invitations, proposals, a red carpet rolled through the weave itself. He offers power with impeccable manners. And when he smiles, you see the cage of your own hunger. The house of hope is a soul market, a reliquary of broken oaths, a pleasure palace for the damned. The devil is never just a villain, it is an alchemical trial, a rite of purification through the confrontation with shadow. They are revelations. What would you trade for your desires? What cost would you call freedom? Let us not forget Arthur Jurgir, a killer trapped by the wording of his deal, a literal devil bound by linguistic intricacies. His suffering is proof that even demons suffer under contracts. That is the devil's truest law. No one escapes the terms. The devil also dwells in intimacy, twisted, masked as love. Mizora offers Will a torment far more insidious than death, service wrapped in glamour. Every favor she grants is another chain. Fiend Warlock. They shook hands with hell and smiled. The fiend warlock wields flame and temptation, their soul leveraged for leverage. Their magic is a contract that burns. The cult of Loviatar, echoing through the goblin camp. Her priestess Abdirak flays flesh by devotion. Here pain is sacrament, suffering a path to ecstasy. The lash becomes a tool of transcendence, but also submission. Where does discipline end and addiction begin? Dark urge. If you follow his descent, murder is the urge kick as a reflex and addiction. The voice that whispers sweetly of destiny, of birthright, of power through carnage. If followed blindly, this path leads not just to death, but to enthronement atop a corpse pile, bound to Baal's will. But if resisted, if mastered, it offers perhaps the greatest alchemical transmutation in the game, to unbind from one's nature. The devil is not bound only to hell, they walk barefoot in the woods too, veiled in moss and promises. In the swamp they wear the face of Auntie Ethel. Her charm is grandmotherly, her power old as peat and rot. She does tempts with kindness warped, a cure for your child's ailment, a second chance at motherhood, a stolen memory offered back for a price you won't miss until it's gone. Here Marina, as her newest victim, promised to have her husband back for exchange of her firstborn, only to realize how much more bitter this divorce could even become. Ethel's lair, the gnarled tea house, is no infernal court, yet every inch of it drips with the same currency, consent twisted into enslavement. She offers what you want most when you are weakest, that is her power, that is the devil's shape in the Feywild. And should you peer deeper into the masks she's worn, the sisters she's betrayed, you begin to see that Ethel is but a node in a web far older, a matron of rot, of cruelty hidden behind courtesy. Into the Shadowlands, Thistlebald Thorm, keeper of the Waning Moon Inn, drinks not for celebration but to forget. Once a healer, a scholar, a man of wit, now reduced to a corpse puppet who brews memories into moonshine. He forces his guests to drink his pain, exchange stories, lost into intoxicated and endless bar talk. You drink, you gag, you weep, and in return, he listens. There is no formal contract here, but still a transaction. Pain for pain, bottle for bottle. The devil smiles, red-eyed and bloated, behind vice once again. Even Astarion reveals his own vices by validation, performance, indulgence in adoration. He flirts to feel powerful as defense mechanism, to reclaim agency through conquest. And if you enable him, if you let him feed freely, kill with flair, pose like a prince, he spirals. His pleasure becomes self-definition. The devil watches, pleased, not because Astarion falls, but because he thinks he's rising. Let us not overlook Gale either. His addiction is less visceral, but no less destructive. He craves weave like a drunkard craves wine. His hunger for magic is literal, a need that drives him to consume artifacts, relics, memories. He masks it with intellect, with romantic phrasing, but at its core, he is addicted to meaning, to mattering, to being needed by divinity. The devil does not always offer pleasure. Sometimes he offers purpose, and when that purpose is withdrawn, the addict crawls. Vice in occult thought is the shadow form of desire. Even the protagonist can indulge. You can press your companions, hoard tadpoles, pursue power. You can push romance into manipulation. You can betray for the thrill of it. The devil does not judge you for these choices. He welcomes them. And then there is Orin. From childhood, Orin was conditioned in blood, taught that love was sacrifice, that murder was worship. She was made to butcher her own mother, an offering to Baal, the god of murder. That scar shaped her entirely, a initiation, one that she stood from it ordained. To some she may resemble the death arcana itself, but she does not usher endings with reverence. She devours for validation. Her murders are not alchemical, they are desperate cries for Baal's gaze. She sees herself as a chosen daughter. She's addicted to significance, obsessed with prophecy. She drinks from the devil's chalice, the one filled with identity shaped by lies. The devil's bargains feel inevitable. Who is then the devil, he who tempts or the one who signs? The tower. There is a violence in revelation, a sacred shattering. The tower falls because it is the truth has struck like lightning, indifferent to mortal architecture. It begins with the nautiloid tearing through the sky above Faerun. Tentacles writhe across rooftops. Civilians vanish mid-step. The air splits with shrieks as the city bends beneath an invasion no one was prepared for. This is no war. This is surgical collapse, a sudden unraveling of safety, of order, of meaning. In that moment, all towers fall with abduction, fire, and a world ending in the blink of a mind flayer's eye. Sometimes it is a structure, one devoured by fire. In Act 1, a burning inn crackles with prophecy. Flames consume the tavern walls. Screams echo above the breaking beams. Deep within the Rosimorn Monastery, the blood of Lathander rests with the Dawnmaster's safeguard. A radiant weapon, yes, but also a mechanism designed to obliterate the Githyanki Kresh with searing holy light should the relic fall into unworthy hands. It disintegrates, wrapped in sanctified annihilation. Gale walks with a far older doom. The Netherese orb in his chest is pure cataclysm, humming like a dormant sun. Gale is a man built on the brink, and if he fails, the tower that falls is not just himself, it is a radius of unmaking, bright and absolute. The shadow curse spreads with slower venom, yet no less destructive. Its reach chokes the land in darkness, silences memory, petrifies wanderers mid-step. Its cause is old, a war between light and dark, moon and night, but its presence is now. Time itself loses contour beneath its veil. And then, Ketheric Thorm. His Moonrise Tower is the most literal, most tragic. It is a fortress forged from grief, from desperation to resurrect his daughter. He drinks undeath as if it were hope. It's up to you to destroy this tower from within. Far from there, another threat simmers in silence. In Grimforge, the gnomes toil beside smoke powder barrels, explosive compounds distilled from deep alchemy and bitter rebellion. One spark, one misstep, and the everything could vanish into fire. You might light the fuse yourself or shield it from a premature end. Revolution and ruin often share the same wick. Tempest Cleric. Crash and Clarity. The Tempest Cleric carries revelation in thunder, tearing illusions from the world with every lightning wrought cry. Destruction here is sacred unveiling. Storm Sorcery. Born of maelstroms, the Storm Sorcerer moves with charged defiance. They ride chaos like a current, their power not summoned but sparked from within. Evocation Wizard. Raw force, refined. The evoker is cataclysm sculpted into spell, demolition with method. They do not speak gently, they detonate truth. And Baldur's Gate itself, the city of gates and ambition, stands atop its own tower of glass. Gortash has crowned himself architect of its future, with the Steel Watch as his sentinels. Yet the Foundry hides its weakness. The watch depends on one fragile source of power, break it, and the machines fall, the gears halt, the city's spine collapses. His rule, like all towers born of coercion, is brittle behind its grandeur. The tower teaches through wreckage, its wisdom in the necessity of collapse. The star. When night falls hardest upon the soul and the shadows of this world press too close, there are those who glow. The star is the breath drawn after the tower collapses. It is the first trembling step toward dawn, taken with no guarantee that dawn will come. Isabel, the cleric of Selune, is no ordinary priestess. Her presence halts the march of shadow, literally anchoring the last light in a radius of divine sanctuary. But more than that, her heartbeat is a beacon. As long as she draws breath, the cursed cannot pass. The blighted cannot encroach, and the night itself is kept at bay. She is a fixed point in a crumbling world. If Isabel's dies, everything collapses. The barrier shatters, the inn falls, the cursed feast, and yet, even in her vulnerability, she never hides. There is no arrogance in her power, only duty. And then there is the Night Song, a being of myth, thought lost for 1,000 years. The legend claimed she was a weapon, a key to Selune's grace. In truth, she is Aelin, daughter of the Moon Maiden, and like the celestial body she echoes, her story waxes and wanes through cycles of death and revelation. Trapped beneath the gauntlet of Shar, she endured torture, preserved hope and faith, and if freed, she becomes a living star. Along her lover liberated, she heals what war broke. Moon lanterns, the light that weeps. In the cursed twilight of Act Two, moon lanterns first appear as tools of survival, objects that ward away the all consuming dark, carried by Drider escorts and manipulated by the cult of Thorm. They are spoken of with reverence as sacred instruments that preserve life in a place where even torches are swallowed whole. But the closer you look, the more tragic their glow becomes. Within each lantern is not moonlight, we find a pixie, imprisoned, a creature of wild joy forced to shine for her captors. By investigating her lantern, she can be freed, and upon her release, she gives you something more precious than any artifact: freedom from the shadow curse, without chains, without suffering. The false light of the lantern is utility built upon exploitation, but her blessing is true starlight, an act of generosity in return for compassion. Deep in the bowels of the Underdark, clinging to the edges of the ancient Susur tree, grows a flower unlike any other, blue, ethereal, and delicate to the touch, the Susur bloom. Its presence suppresses magic entirely. Enchantment unravels in its aura. Spells fail. Wards collapse. The weave folds in on itself, quiet. The noble stalk is no mere mushroom. It blooms once in a generation, hidden within the Underdark's fungal chorus like a lone psalm in a choir of rot. A single petal can restore what even resurrection magic cannot, the memory of life lost. When given to Balin Bonecloak, it returns his mind, shattered by psychic trauma, to wholeness. But this could be a bad idea since he was very cruel before losing his memory. Give it to his wife instead, and she will have her shop open in Baldur's Gate, or even better use for Shadowheart to remember her memories repressed by Shar's claws, or even the dark urge to get a glimpse of what you used to be. Across Faerun, there are weapons that drink magic, enchanted helms, or quiet trinkets cradled in the hands of the forgotten. There is a sword, Falar Aluve, that sings in sorrow and pride, a relic of the Underdark that chooses its wielder by the resonance of spirit. And even among the unreachable remnants of forgotten wishes endure, like the untouched genie's lamp resting in sorceress sundries, humming softly with a magic no longer bound to action, only memory. Of all the cards, perhaps the star is the one we never truly hold, only follow. A glimmer ahead, not behind. Is it promise or delusion? Circle of Stars Druid. They are a constellation made conscious. The Stars Druid orients others by radiant vision, their presence a map toward healing and horizon. The Moon. The moon in the tarot is a wandering light. It governs the tides of the unconscious, the shadows that flicker at the edge of perception, the truths hidden behind glamour, illusion, and dream. In the arcane tower at first glance, the chest of the mundane sits innocuously on the balcony, its gilded frame promising nothing unusual. Within, forks, mugs, plates, but once removed, they transform into powerful loot. Once a clever hiding spot for a wizard's true hoard, the chest now stands as a living metaphor for the moon, appearances unworthy of trust. Some characters are not illusions, but dwell within them like fish in water. Lady Esther, the woman who offers a Githyanki egg for safekeeping, may in fact be lying about her intent. Is she a rescuer or a trafficker? Her smile is soft, but the truth beneath it is never certain. She operates in the moral fog the moon governs. No clear truth, just perspectives. The entire land of the shadow-cursed forest breathes under the moon's dominion, where we find the fragmented soul of Thaniel. Oliver, the child-made illusion, plays endless games, traps reality in theater. His laughter hides the wound. His home flickers between real and false. Can one truly confront trauma without first dancing with its illusion? The moon invites you to question what you know, to suspect what you feel, to navigate by instinct rather than sight. There are doors in Faerun that do not open but vanish, walls that shimmer under illusory magic, stairwells leading nowhere until a lie is dispelled. The moon holds dominion over these thresholds. Phantoms of stone, mushrooms, vines conjured to conceal what should never be found. In Cazador's palace, there's a grotesque form of illusion at play born by blood. His thralls move about in eerie calm, dressed finely, mouths smiling, eyes empty. They speak like courtiers, yet they are nothing more than puppets. Their lives are illusions curated by the vampire lord to maintain the fantasy of control. What is a court if not theater? And what is undeath if not the illusion of life prolonged? Consider the doppelgangers lurking among refugees, survivors, even companions. Their magic is of manipulation of trust. They walk freely among us, mimicking human form to gain entry, their identities known only if one pries carefully. Elsewhere, they wear the faces of the dead, impersonating loved ones in battle to unsettle and deceive. What better mirror of the moon's power than a creature that embodies the false reflection of familiarity, faced with paranoia and the idea that the person beside you might not be real? Then there's the Circus of the Last Days in the lower city, a literal celebration of illusion, a carnival run by a Dribbles the Clown, or rather the trail of illusions left in his wake. What begins as comedy unravels into nightmare, as you uncover the real dribbles dismembered and distributed like macabre stage props. The moon also marks its presence in dialogue. Many persuasion checks hinge on deception, insight, or performance, acts of illusion in their own right. To lie convincingly or see through a lie is to wield lunar wisdom. The world's speechcraft is soaked in lunar ambiguity. Even your companions may be swayed by deception or may deceive you. Trickery cleric. They serve with misdirection, cloaking divinity in riddles. The trickery cleric sanctifies the mask, granting illusions the weight of miracles. Shadow sorcerer. Born of dusk, they weave magic from what should not remain. The shadow sorcerer steps between breaths, a paradox cloaked in quiet dread. Arcane trickster rogue. Subtlety made spell. The trickster lifts what's hidden and hides what's true, a sleight of hand magician among murderers. Illusion wizard. They paint worlds that lie just right. The illusionist crafts deception so precise it becomes another reality. Archfey warlock. They traffic in whim and wonder. The Archfey's agent is mystery incarnate, bending beauty into bewilderment with a smile that forgets its own meaning. Way of Shadow Monk. Their art flourishes here too as illusion given weight by solitude's sharp insight. Glamour Bard, radiance weaponized. The Glamour Bard shines with hypnotic presence, a beacon too bright to doubt. Their charm is woven from ancient Fey art and effortless control. Thief Rogue, time and truth stolen. The thief manipulates attention as deftly as locks, slipping reality aside for just long enough to escape it. Gloom Stalker Ranger, predator in perpetual twilight. The Gloomstalker thrives in forgotten corners, unseen and unfazed. Their arrow is the first and last thing the dark ever notices. And perhaps most chilling is this: even the protagonist character walks the moon's path. Whether through the tadpole's influence or through personal choice, you may lie, mask, shapeshift, seduce, and charm. You can sculpt your identity, disguise your origin, and walk unseen among friends and enemies alike. Who are you truly? And who do you pretend to be? The sun. The sun is blaze that clears the battlefield. Where the moon weaves dreams and delusions, the sun burns them away. Its golden clarity reveals. We find the sun in acceptance, in those who stand unveiled before fate and smile anyway. And none embody this radiance more vividly than Karlach. She is heat incarnate, more than a soldier, more than a weapon. A tiefling heart welded to an infernal engine, her body pulses with Avernian fire, but she does not flinch from the blaze. Even knowing it will end her, she roars into battle laughing. Her chest glows with molten urgency, and still she chooses love. Still she dances by the river, barefoot and wild, seizing joy by the throat. What is that, if not solar grace? The Light Cleric. Beacon against the void. The Light Cleric brings radiance that burns away shadow, their divine magic a sunrise that never flinches. They do not just illuminate, they reveal. To release Night Song is to unleash a celestial blaze, shattering Kethric's unholy immortality and breaking his dominion. Even the simple act of clearing the skies holds solar meaning. But nowhere is the sun's metaphysical truth more elegantly embodied than in the quiet, miraculous return of Thaniel. When the curse lifts, color returns, the world regains its depth. Judgment. The final hour, the forking of all souls. Should you reach the heart of Act 3, the true judgment begins, centered on the crown of Karsus, the stolen power at the Netherbrain's core. Here, the crown may pass to many hands. You may offer it to Raphael, sealing a new contract of infernal dominion. The Cambion laughs last, ruling over gods and men with the tongues of the dead. A clever end and a cruel one. Or Gale may claim the crown and ascend, reborn as a being of boundless arcane might. No longer man, no longer mortal. Whether he uses it wisely or not, he becomes something else. The nether brain looms. You may destroy it, shattering its hold and ending the curse of the tadpoles across the realms. This is judgment at its most transcendence through choice. And then, the questions left behind. When the smoke clears and the dawn spills over broken rooftops, the questions remain. Who did you love? Did Karlach burn out among friends or descend once more into hell? Did she live as a weapon or die as a woman? Who became the mind flayer? You, Orpheus, Karlach, was it sacrifice or strategy? Did you walk beside Orpheus tearing down empires? Or did you bow to the Emperor, trading freedom for order? Is Shadowheart a Selûnite, humbled by memory and mercy? Or a daughter of Shar, cloaked in silence, colder than grief? Did Astarion ascend into nobility of the night, or walk away from power to end the cycle of abuse? Did Lae'zel take flight bearing Orpheus' legacy to the stars? Or did she return, hollow-eyed, to a queen who devours her own? Each of these choices blooms into consequence. Each ending folds into hundreds of mirrored versions, shaped by countless decisions, romances, alliances, deaths, redemptions. It is said that there are more than 17,000 permutations to the ending sequence. But the number is less important than the question, what world did you leave behind, and who did you become to create it? The world. The archdevils, the elder brains, the exiled gods, the mind-bound thralls, the errant memories, all of them exist within one frame, and the player does not merely travel between these realms, but weaves them into one coherent being. That is the magic, that is the arcana, transmutation wizard. To master change is to understand all things. The transmuter sees no boundaries between stone and star, only states awaiting reshaping. Their craft is completion through endless revision. Conjuration wizard, summoner of synthesis. The conjurer unites what is separated, reaching across dimensions to connect disparate truths. Every summoned echo is a fragment of the whole, from the great forge of Grimm to the forgotten corners of the astral prism. The world speaks not in resolutions but in harmonics. Every voice remains distinct but resonates with every other. Even the city itself is a convergence, a crucible of powers, ideologies, lineages, and remnants, the forge of all that has passed, the gate through which the final decision steps forth. You may end as a god or a tyrant or an echo walking free in a shattered world, but always as a synthesis, never again what you were. The serpent eats its tail as the promise that nothing truly ends, that every arcana folds into the next, that the fool's first step was already the world's return. And so we close the circle with wonder, for what lies beyond the world is not an answer, but a new question. Shall we walk it again? One should not have to dwell in a world without explicit magic or truly rewarding trials to conquer. Still here we are, searching.